Here's what's happening at Utopia Farms today. Always keep your rams in your line of vision. That is the bonus of the sheep being indoors like this. I particularly love how the people in the UK judge sheep. We spend a lot of time breeding for quality here. I think it's a system that maybe us North Americans should pay a little more attention to. So let's get started. Fed this breeding group at the back of the barn, and with the other half of the bale we're going to feed the other two breeding groups. And this is how our feeding system works. It's just a matter of dropping round bales into the feeders and then rolling them out. And as you know, right now we're feeding our wrapped hay. This is the first cut wrapped hay. Now that a lot of the sheep are in the barns, it's easy to do our quick monitoring of their condition and their health. As you can see, this group was just fed and everybody's up eating, so that means they're healthy. And same on the other side, they're all eating except for the two that are at the drinker, which you can just barely see.
Okay, did people notice anything different?
Arnie put his t-shirt in the laundry so Lynn could wash it.
The breakfast smudge is gone. I wonder how many people picked that out.
Everybody did. They were just too polite to mention it. So these are the old rams. Hi, how you doing, Birdie? Hi.
See, they prefer the wet hay. See?
Of course, but now at least everybody can eat at once.
Well, I just gave him that wet whore this morning.
Oh,
just
okay.
a new piece. I'm trying to do the. Oh, is that growing?
What? Yes, Jed has been fighting, so he's developed a little stub, so we call him unicorn now. Oh, sweetheart, that's quite the stunning display. Yeah, that's unusual. It's amazing. That's just scar tissue that's built up. I don't know. Funny. Hi, you're really nice. Yeah, you're really, really nice. Yeah, you're a good boy. You're an old guy. I think Ferdinand and Felon are our two oldest rams right now. They're the F year. So here's the ram. I'm in the pen here, so I'm gonna walk out of here. Like I said yesterday, keep my eye on him. I don't know him. He's kind of a squirrely ram. So always keep your rams in your line of vision. That way you avoid any accidents. But this is the time when the rams take full advantage of the ewes. They do the sweep of the line to see if anyone's cycling, and then they go in to eat. Business before pleasure. So it's very, very obvious when we look in these barns that everyone's doing really well. They come up to eat right away. You can see nobody's got diarrhea or anything like that. They're all looking good. That is the nice thing about being indoors. You can really monitor your sheep and they get more one-on-one attention. When they go out to the fields, it's a lot harder to monitor their individual progress because they spread out in a field. They're not lined up for your observation like this. And also when they're not feeling well and they're out in the fields, they'll put their heads down as if they're grazing. I think it's so that predators don't realize that they're sick. And it looks like they're eating and acting like everyone else when actually they're not. So that is the bonus of the sheep being indoors like this. Normally we have our sheep outdoors, but during breeding season, we definitely like them indoors because they've been treated, they've been dewormed, and we definitely want to be monitoring their health closely while they're getting bred and are pregnant.
So you mentioned fermenting?
Yeah,
That's fermented hay. And you can smell it and see how it's turned brown.
yeah.
And it's actually broke down the hay a little bit. So maybe a little easier for the animals to digest it. This,
Well,
I
they
gotta tell you,
like
this is
it.
mostly- huh?
Well, they seem to like it.
This is mostly alfalfa.
Yeah.
I assure you, these guys need another bale tonight.
Well,
They'll eat this right up.
there's 80, almost 90 sheep in this barn. So that's how much they're eating. And we got the ram on this side as well. He's in the middle here, eating with the girls. And right now, it's the time of year where people are getting ready to show their sheep. I know in some countries, like the UK, they've been showing sheep pretty well all summer long. But I just watched one of my YouTube guys showing his sheep today from the sheep school, and it's always very interesting to me to watch how people in the other countries judge their sheep. And I particularly love how the people in the UK judge sheep. For one thing, usually the judge involved knows the breed of sheep he's judging, so he's not just judging on conformation, but he's also judging on breed type, which for a purebred breeder is very important. So I like to see that. I also like to see that in some shows they have shows with the mother and her 2 lambs, or however many lambs she has, at side. So you can see how her lambs turned out, how well she's feeding them, how well her udder is developed. You can see that she's a good example of a breeding ewe. I thought that's really cool. I also like it that the judges will have the participants release the sheep in the pen where they're being judged. Sometimes they have them release the whole group, and sometimes I see they just have maybe their top 4 released. And that way the sheep are running around the pen and the judge can see how they are freely moving without being on a halter, because when they're on a halter, they behave differently. They could be really trained to a halter, or they could be fighting the halter. And either way, it's not their natural state of being. So I really like to see that too. Another thing I like to see is that they don't only judge for conformation, but once they've selected their top sheep for conformity, they also will then judge them on practicality. Like a sheep at the end of the day is supposed to be a working animal on your farm, a productive animal. So they're judged on their production qualities. So along with the breed type, they're looking for sheep that match, like would fit in on a working farm operation. So for instance, today on the video that I watched, one of the bigger ewes was picked as having the best conformation in the group. However, she was also the largest in the group, and she didn't conform with the breed type. And if you kept using only the bigger ones, you're eventually gonna create sheep like us in North America have, which tend on overall, if you, especially for the purebred people, is you're just gonna start getting what we call the monster sheep, really, really tall. And it's hard to overlook those sheep because a perfectly built big bruiser of an animal catches your eye. But in the UK, they realize that if the sheep is a few inches taller than the breed standard or the breed type, that's not the way you want to be going. Yes, you're going to keep that ewe because she's got fantastic conformation, but my guess is you're going to place a smaller ram on her, the kind of the way we do, kind of mixing and matching your ewes and your rams together so that you maintain that breed type and that breed standard. And I really, really like that about the UK. I could probably spend a whole summer just going to their shows. I think they're fantastic. The reason we don't show anymore is for those exact reasons. Most of the people showing sheep around here are raising what we call show sheep, which in this country are the big tall ones. They will deny that, but at the end of the day, when you watch the shows, the tall ones at the top of the class, and the more you go down in height, the lower you're going to place in the show. We disagree with that, and at our last show where we had some really, really nice sheep, including Gladiator and Geronimo, two of our best ones, and the judge commented that we had a really excellent commercial type sheep, and the commercial type sheep was kind of an insult. It made it sound like our sheep were only good enough for breeding to meat sheep, whereas we spend a lot of time breeding for quality here. And we had some really nice meaty sheep there, but they were easily a good foot shorter than the others. So it's nice to bring your sheep to the show and for the public to see them, but if judges are making comments that have nothing to do with viability and breed standard, it doesn't do well for the breeders who are working to produce beautiful sheep with good conformation, who adhere to breed standards and are extremely profitable sheep on your farm. If basically those sheep are being penalized for not being tall and pretty enough, and I know a lot of North Americans won't like to hear that, but that's what we've seen. And yeah, I've been showing sheep for years and years. We're amateurs at it because we were never trained in 4-H or anything, but it's an undeniable trend, and you can see it on the shows that I've posted online too. Those tall sheep always win, but I will give the breeders credit because most of the people purchasing sheep who are running true sheep farms, like where we're making a living off sheep, some people are doing it for a hobby, and it's a totally different ball game then. If you've got tall sheep and it's just your hobby, you've got 12 of them and you love going in the show ring and fitting them and sculpting them and getting them as big as possible, that's one side of the picture or the equation. But if you're a sheep farmer who's making a living off sheep, those sheep have no value whatsoever in your flock, and they do reflect at the sales, because the practical, well-muscled sheep that are the size that breed is supposed to be sell extremely well, as you've seen also from the sales that we post on our YouTube videos. You can have a look. We have lots of them on our YouTube channel. But anyway, I'm rambling now, but I just watched the sheep show in the UK, like I said, and I just love to watch it. The exhibitors are all dressed up. They wear like trench coats and ties, and they're looking at all the qualities that matter, all of them. and weighing in on that. And I think it's a much better system. And I think it's a system that maybe us North Americans should pay a little more attention to. And I definitely think 4-H leaders, I hope that they're stressing that to their children, learning showmanship and learning about sheep, because even in 4-H, I'm seeing that a lot of times it's those tall sheep that are winning the shows for these kids. And I would just hope that the 4-H leaders are teaching them what a real sheep should be like on a working farm. The only time where tall sheep don't win in 4-H, it seems, is when it's not registered sheep. So a lot of our sheep go to 4-H homes and do extremely well, and they've bought them from us unregistered. They do really well because our sheep tend to muscle well and they're the correct size. Our sheep do well in the purebred shows as well, unless there are taller sheep around. Oh, and one more thing about showing. If in Canada, anyway, the shows are getting smaller, like less and less people are getting interested in them, and they're having a hard time getting people to participate. And I think if they had either separate classes with the tall show sheep and I don't even think they should separate the classes, because they should adhere to breed standard, and breed standard is not big tall sheep. There are breed standards on every breed of sheep, and that tall thing is not in the breed standard at all. They should go to the bottom of the class, in my opinion. However, in countries where they do have taller sheep, perhaps, I don't know, and maybe somebody could tell us that, maybe in those countries the breed standard has been altered. So maybe the height is taller in those countries, but you can't put a North American show Suffolk, for instance, or Dorset beside a show Dorset or Suffolk in the UK. They don't even look like the same animal. And these sheep did come from the UK. So I would say that that's the breed standard. People will disagree. And I'm not really criticizing. I'm just saying that maybe we should educate people a little bit about the differences and why there are differences, and be honest about the profitability if you are going to raise sheep. Like, you would never ever raise a huge flock of giant-sized sheep. And it's not because they don't produce the meat, because obviously they're going to have extremely big carcasses. It's the cost to get them there. We have had many taller sheep, so it's not like I'm just blowing air out my mouth. Those sheep are hard keepers, way harder, and we don't actually love our short sheep either. But to be honest, they're the easy keepers. Very, very seldom will you see them not stay in good condition. And the bottom line matters. These sheep have to get to market, ideally in good time, with good muscling, and it shouldn't cost you a fortune to get them there. There's my little rant for the day. And it's not a rant. It's just educating and talking, and everyone has their preferences. I realize that. And I just feel it's that people who are breeding to type are maybe not being represented in the market, and I think it may discourage people from buying, say, Suffolks or Dorsets because they think they're too tall or they're too hard keepers, and that's not always the case. It depends on the type of them that you're buying, and every time people call here for sheep, I have to explain the differences, and it should be that a breed is a breed and it follows standards, but there's so much explaining to do when you talk about Suffolks and Dorsets and Hampshires and other breeds in Canada to potential buyers. So I guess I got waylaid a little bit too. I was talking about it being show season now, and besides the fact that we've just had no time to prepare sheep for showing, it's really not of any benefit to us to do it anymore because, for one thing, we're not going to place. We can't compete against sheep that are way bigger than ours. It's just impossible. And also, people could say, well, people will see your sheep and they'll want to buy them because they see them, that they're nice sheep. And you would think that would be the case, but I'm thinking it gets confusing for buyers because they see the bigger sheep being placed at the top and they get the impression that this style of sheep is not correct. It's not what you want to get, and they don't understand. So I just think it's not good for the sheep industry. So it may sound like sour grapes, but it's not. It's just you don't want to put a bad foot forward, and we don't want people to think that we're producing substandard animals because we put a lot of effort into our sheep, and I would like to say that they're far from substandard. Well, I guess we're going to call that a day because I ranted way longer than I had intended to and made an entire video about it. But the reason for the video was not a rant. It was because I was really inspired by watching the UK sheep shows and seeing how much they value the sheep, not only for their conformation, but on their practicality and their ability to work on a farm as well. So they're valuing all the traits in their sheep shows, and I think it's a great idea, and I really do think that other countries maybe should adopt that because it's awesome. Anyway, hope you enjoyed your time with us. Stay tuned tomorrow. Arnie's haying. Bye for now.